Hey, my name is Ethan. I'm 28. Until 6 months ago, I was just a broke production assistant trying to make rent in North Hollywood. Then one night during a shoot, a famous married actress grabbed my hand in front of a swarm of paparazzi and whispered, "Pretend you're my boyfriend." I asked, "And after that?" She squeezed harder, and I smelled vanilla and amber on her skin as the cameras exploded around us. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in her mansion signing an NDA while her husband called me the puppy from the next room. The last thing she ever said to me face to face was, "You made me feel seen," and I hated myself for wanting more. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. Because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I never thought my first real studio job would be the one that ruined me. I was 28, broke, living in a studio apartment in North Hollywood that smelled like the previous tenant's cigarettes and someone else's failed dreams. My car made a sound like it was dying every time I turned left. I had student loans from a film school degree I barely used, and a mom back in Ohio who still introduced me as my son who works in the movies, even though I mostly just carried cables and fetched coffee. The day I got the call about the PA gig on a major studio production, I cried in my car for 10 minutes. Not because I was happy, because I was relieved. Relieved I could finally make rent without picking up a third gig delivering food at midnight. My first morning on set, I showed up 40 minutes early with a thermos of gas station coffee and anxiety climbing up my throat. The lot was massive. Sound stages the size of airplane hangars, golf carts zipping past with people who looked important, walkie-talkies crackling with codes I didn't understand yet. A guy about my age with kind eyes and a Yankees cap found me standing there looking lost. "You the new guy?" he asked. I nodded. "Luis." He stuck out his hand. "Come on, I'll show you where to dump your stuff." He walked me through the basics, where to park, which bathrooms were closest, which assistant directors were cool, and which ones would chew you out for breathing wrong. He pointed at a massive stage 4 and said, "That's where the royalty works. We're the peasants." I laughed, but he wasn't really joking. The film was some big-budget drama, the kind with red carpets and Oscar buzz before a single frame was shot. And the star? The star was Naya Harrington. I'd seen her movies. Everyone had. She was the kind of actress who could cry on command and make you believe every tear was real. Beautiful in that way that felt untouchable. Like she existed on a different plane than the rest of us. I saw her for the first time around 11 that morning. She was blocking a scene with the director on stage 4. I was hauling some apple boxes across the lot, and I just stopped. She wore a long coat, even though it was 70 degrees inside. Her hair was pulled back. No visible makeup from that distance, but she didn't need it. She moved through the space like she owned it. But there was something about the way she stood when the director stepped away. Something lonely. She glanced up. Our eyes met for half a second. I kept walking, told myself to stop staring. Luis caught up to me. "That's Naya Harrington," he said, like I didn't know. "Married to some big-shot entertainment lawyer. Power couple. You'll see them on magazine covers in the break room." "She seems nice?" I said, because I didn't know what else to say. Luis snorted. "She's an actress, man. They all seem nice until you realize you're furniture." The first day blurred into the second, then the third. I learned the rhythm, the language, when to move fast and when to stay invisible. I ran lunch orders, managed background actors, fixed a radio mix-up that almost got me yelled at by an AD but didn't. I didn't speak to Naya Harrington, didn't even get close. Not until the night shoot. It was a Friday. We were filming exteriors on a city street set after dark. The air was cool, the lights were hot. Derek, the security guard I'd gotten to know, was pacing near the perimeter, looking tense. "Paparazzi," he muttered to me. "They figured out where we're shooting. This is going to be a shit show." I didn't understand why that mattered. Paparazzi were part of the deal, right? Then Nia arrived. She stepped out of a black SUV and I could feel the energy shift. She was in character wardrobe, a sleek dress and heels, but her face looked tight. She was on the phone. I couldn't hear the words, but I heard the tone. "I said I'd handle it, Marcus," she said into her phone. "Can you just trust me for once?" She hung up, handed the phone to someone, took a breath, and became the version of herself the cameras needed. We ran the scene twice. Then, during a reset, security got called to the other end of the block. Some drunk guy trying to climb the barricades. That's when the paparazzi made their move. They surged forward, voices shouting over each other. "Nia, is it true about Marcus? Nia, are you getting divorced? Who's the other woman, Nia?" She was caught near the curb, separated from her team. I was maybe 10 feet away, holding a stack of release forms, frozen like an idiot. She turned, saw me, and before I could process what was happening, she crossed the distance and grabbed my hand. "Pretend you're my boyfriend," she whispered, her eyes locked on mine, desperate. For the paparazzi? My brain short-circuited. "And after that?" "After that, you walk away like you don't know me." But she squeezed my hand, hard, like she didn't want me to let go, so I didn't. I slid my arm around her waist. She leaned into me. The cameras went insane, flashes like lightning, voices screaming questions I couldn't hear over the blood pounding in my ears. Her perfume hit me. Vanilla and amber. Warm and expensive. She tilted her head toward mine, not quite touching, and smiled like we'd done this 1,000 times. "Just breathe," she said under her breath. "You're doing great." Reggie, her driver, appeared out of nowhere and cleared a path. Jules, her publicist, watched from 20 feet away with her arms crossed and an expression I couldn't read. 30 seconds. That's how long the whole thing lasted. Then Nia let go of my hand, thanked me in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, and disappeared into her trailer without looking back. I stood there, shaking. Luis found me 5 minutes later. "Dude, what the hell just happened?" "I have no idea," I said. But I knew enough to know my life had just changed. I didn't sleep that night. I kept checking my phone, refreshing Instagram, Twitter, TMZ. The photos were already everywhere. Blurry shots of Nia Harrington pressed against some white guy in a hoodie. My hoodie. My face half visible under the brim of a baseball cap. The captions ranged from curious to cruel. Nia's mystery man? Who is the white guy with Nia Harrington? Trouble in paradise for the Harringtons? By sunrise, I had 47 notifications. People I hadn't talked to since high school were sending me screenshots. "Is this you?" I didn't answer any of them. I showed up to set the next morning early, hoping to avoid the questions. Luis cornered me at the coffee station anyway. "You're famous, bro," he said, grinning. "Mr. Harrington 2-0. "It wasn't like that," I said. "Doesn't matter what it was like. Matters what it looked like." He wasn't wrong. Around 10, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Conference room B now." My stomach dropped. Conference room B was small. White walls, a table, 3 people waiting, Jules, a studio PR rep I'd seen around, and a lawyer in a suit that probably cost more than my car. "Sit down, Ethan," Jules said. Not unkind. Just efficient. I sat. The lawyer slid a folder across the table. "We're going to be very direct with you. Last night's incident, has created an opportunity." "An opportunity?" I repeated. Jules leaned forward. "Nia's husband, Marcus, is currently dealing with some allegations. Infidelity. It's messy. The photos of you and Nia have shifted the narrative. People are talking about her instead of him." "So you want me to… what? Lie?" "We want you to cooperate," the PR rep said, "which means occasionally appearing with Nia in public. Nothing dramatic. Coffee, a walk, enough to keep the story alive." "And if I say no?" The lawyer's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You're a production assistant on a major studio film. Your contract is at will. We're not threatening you. We're offering you an opportunity to be helpful and compensated." They weren't threatening me, but they were. I looked at Jules. "Does Nia know about this?" "It was her idea," Jules said. I didn't believe that, not entirely, but I also didn't have a choice. I signed the NDA. They added $2,000 to my paycheck, told me to keep my phone on. As I left the room, Jules caught my arm. "Don't fall for her," she said quietly. "This is work, for both of you." I nodded. But I'd already felt Nia's hand in mine, already smelled her perfume on my sleeve. I was already falling. The first staged outing was that same afternoon. Jules texted me an address, a cafe in Los Feliz. Trendy, exposed brick, the kind of place where everyone pretended not to notice celebrities. I changed into a clean shirt, washed my face, stared at myself in the mirror and wondered what the hell I was doing. Reggie picked me up in the SUV, gave me a nod but didn't say much. He dropped me a block away. "Walk up like you've been here before," he said. "Paparazzi are already positioned." My hands were shaking. I pushed through the door. Nia was at a corner table, sunglasses on, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, smiled. Not the public smile, something smaller. Real. I sat down across from her. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "Honestly? No idea." She reached across the table. Her fingers brushed mine, just for a second. "Thank you for doing this. I know it's strange." Strange is one word for it. The server came. We ordered coffee. I don't remember what kind. Through the window I could see the paparazzi, lenses the size of my forearm. But inside, it was just us. We talked. About nothing important. She asked about Ohio. I asked about how she got into acting. She told me she grew up in a small house with a TV that raised her. I told her my dad died when I was 16, and movies were the only thing that made my mom smile after. Our knees bumped under the table. She didn't move hers away. An hour passed. Maybe more. When we left, she slipped her arm through mine. The cameras clicked like a swarm of insects, but I barely noticed. All I noticed was the way her shoulder fit against mine. That night, I lay in bed and watched the entertainment news. They replayed the footage, me and Nia laughing over coffee, her hand on my arm. The pundits debated. Was this a rebound? A publicity stunt? A real relationship? They showed old photos of Nia and Marcus on red carpets, the perfect power couple. Then they cut back to me, some nobody in a thrift store jacket. I muted the TV, stared at my phone. No new messages. I fell asleep with her perfume still faint on my sleeve. The next evening, Jules sent me an address I recognized. Nia's house. Reggie drove me up the winding hill, past gates, past hedges, past the kind of houses that only existed in movies. The Harrington mansion sat at the top like a glass and stone crown, lights glowing, infinity pool visible from the driveway. May, the housekeeper, answered the door. She was older. Warm eyes. She looked at me the way my mom looked at nervous kids in the ER. "You must be Ethan," she said. "Come in, honey. She's in the living room." I followed her inside. The walls were covered in framed photos. Nia and Marcus at award shows, on magazine covers, smiling like they owned the world. Nia was curled up on a massive couch, script in hand, hair tied back under a scarf. She looked smaller here, more human. "Hey," she said, standing. "Thanks for coming. Jules said you wanted to rehearse?" "I did, but also—" She hesitated. "Marcus might stop by. I thought it would be good if you met him. Officially." My stomach tightened. We ran lines for an hour. The scene was about a woman lying to her husband. The irony wasn't lost on me. At some point, I excused myself to use the bathroom. On my way back, I heard Marcus's voice from a nearby office. "If she wants her puppy, let her have it. Just keep the contracts clean." I stood frozen in the hallway. Puppy. He was talking about me. I returned to the living room. Nia looked up. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. 10 minutes later, Marcus walked in. He was tall, well-dressed, the kind of handsome that came with money and confidence. He smiled, shook my hand a little too firmly. "You must be Ethan," he said, "the famous production assistant." "Just Ethan," I said. "Jules speaks highly of you." His eyes scanned me. "How long have you been in the industry?" "Not long." "Well," he clapped me on the shoulder, "enjoy it while it lasts." He kissed Nia on the cheek, barely looked at her, took a phone call and disappeared upstairs. Nia walked me to the door later. The city glowed below us. The night air was cool. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here." "Is he always like that?" She didn't answer, just gave me a sad smile. As Reggie drove me down the hill, I looked back. The house was lit up like a stage set. Beautiful and empty. The days blurred together after that. More coffee dates, a charity gala where I stood beside Nia in a borrowed suit while paparazzi shouted questions we never answered, late-night line readings in her trailer when the set was quiet and the only sound was the hum of air conditioning. We never crossed a line, never kissed, never held hands except when cameras were watching. But something was growing between us. Something dangerous. One night, after a long shoot, she asked me to help her back to her trailer. Her feet hurt from the heels she'd been wearing for 12 hours. In a dim hallway near the dressing rooms, I knelt down and unbuckled the straps. My hands shook. She steadied herself with one hand on my shoulder. When I stood up, we were inches apart. Her eyes met mine. Neither of us moved. Then footsteps echoed down the hall. Marcus. He appeared at the end of the corridor, stopped, stared. I let go of Nia immediately, stepped back. Marcus walked toward us slowly. "Taking good care of my wife, I see." "She needed help with her shoes," I said. "How considerate." He slid his hand onto Nia's shoulder, squeezed just a little too hard. "Come on, babe. Let's go home." She left, without looking at me. I stood there alone, heart pounding. I knew I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The next morning, my name was gone from the call sheet. Jules found me at the craft services table. "We're restructuring some duties," she said, "keeping things clean." "Did I do something wrong?" "You did too well," she said. "Now it's safer for everyone if you keep your distance." I spent the rest of the day hauling cables, running trash, doing jobs for people who didn't know my name. I saw Nia once from across the lot. She had a new assistant walking beside her. She didn't look my way. That night, I texted her once. "Hope your day's going okay? I?" No response. I deleted the thread. Went to bed. Didn't check the news. But I dreamed about her anyway. About the way her hand fit in mine. About the look in her eyes before Marcus appeared. about a porch light I couldn't stop thinking about even though I'd never been invited back. Over the next week, I learned what it felt like to be erased. My pay dropped back to standard PA rates. The $2,000 bump disappeared like it had never existed. I picked up a weekend gig delivering food just to cover my phone bill. On set, I was invisible again, or worse than invisible. I was the guy people avoided making eye contact with. Like failure was contagious. I texted Naya twice more, once on Tuesday, once on Thursday. Both times I watched the little delivered notification appear, and then nothing. Luis tried to cheer me up, took me out for drinks on Friday night, but I spent most of the evening staring at a TV above the bar showing Entertainment Tonight. They played a clip of Nia and Marcus at some industry event, arms around each other, perfect smiles. The hosts gushed about their unbreakable bond. "You good, man?" Luis asked. "Yeah," I lied. I wasn't good. I was grieving something that had never been mine to begin with. My mom called on a Tuesday afternoon while I was doing laundry at a coin laundromat. The machines hummed. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The whole place smelled like fabric softener and broken dreams. "I haven't seen you on TV lately," she said. No hello, just that. "Yeah, well, that's over." "Over how?" I fed quarters into the dryer. "It was never really a thing, Mom, just work stuff." Silence on the other end. The kind of silence that meant she was deciding whether to push. She pushed. "Are you in love with her?" My throat tightened. "It doesn't matter." "That's not what I asked." I sat down on a plastic chair, watched my clothes tumble through the dryer door. "I don't know. Maybe. But it doesn't change anything. She's married. She's famous. I'm nobody." "You're my son," Mom said. Her voice went softer. "And you sound like your father after your grandmother died. You know what he did? He threw himself into fixing cars, stayed in the garage until midnight. Anything to avoid feeling what he was feeling." "What's your point?" "My point is that running from feelings doesn't make them smaller. It just makes you lonelier." I closed my eyes. "I'm not running. I'm just trying to move on." "Then why do you sound like you're at a funeral?" I didn't have an answer for that. That night, I deleted Naya's contact from my phone, removed her name so it just showed as a number. I told myself it was progress, but I didn't block her socials, didn't erase our message thread. I just hid it where I wouldn't see it every time I opened my phone. 3 weeks after the demotion, I got reassigned to B-Unit pickup shots. Background work. Reshoots for scenes that didn't matter, except they were for Nia's movie. I was on the floor laying tape marks when I heard her voice across the soundstage. My whole body went rigid. I looked up. She was walking through with her team, hair and makeup perfect, laughing at something her assistant said. Then our eyes met. Just for a second. She looked surprised, maybe sad. Then she looked away fast, like remembering we weren't supposed to know each other anymore. I went back to my tape, hands shaking. We didn't speak all day, but I felt her presence like a magnetic field. Every time she moved, I knew where she was without looking. During a break, I stepped outside for air. Reggie was leaning against the building, smoking a cigarette he'd probably been trying to quit for years. "You good, kid?" he asked. I shrugged. He didn't push, just nodded. Offered me a cigarette. I don't smoke, but I took it anyway. We stood there in silence. Two people who'd seen too much and said too little. When the day wrapped, Nia's SUV pulled away before I could even think about approaching. Not that I would have. Not that I knew what I'd say if I did. That night, I drove up into the hills. No destination. Just driving. I ended up on an overlook road I'd found weeks ago when I couldn't sleep. The city spread out below like a circuit board. A million lights, a million lives, all of them mattering more than mine. From where I sat, I could see clusters of houses climbing the hillsides. Big ones, the kind with infinity pools and gates and housekeepers named May. I tried to guess which one was Nia's, but I didn't drive closer. I just sat there. Engine idling, radio head playing low. Eventually, I drove home. Microwaved leftover pasta, fell asleep on the couch with the TV on. Dreamed about a hallway, a pair of heels, a moment that almost was. 5 nights later, I got home from a double shift around 2 in the morning. I was dead on my feet, stripped down to a t-shirt and boxers, reheated some Chinese food in the microwave, and collapsed on the couch with the plate on my chest. The TV murmured. Some late-night talk show I wasn't watching. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't open it, but something made me pick up the phone. The first message was a photo, one of the paparazzi shots from weeks ago. Me and Nia, leaving that cafe. My head thrown back, laughing, her looking at me instead of the cameras. The second message came 10 seconds later. Do you still rehearse with people after midnight? My heart stopped. I sat up. The plate slid off my chest. Chinese food spilled onto the couch, but I didn't care. I knew that number now. I'd deleted the contact, but I'd recognize those words anywhere. Naya. I stared at the screen. Started typing. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. What do you say to a married woman texting you at 2:13 in the morning? What do you say to someone who ghosted you for weeks and then sent you a photo that could ruin both your lives? I settled on something neutral, safe. Depends on the scene. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Nothing came through. I set the phone on my chest, stared at the ceiling, listened to my heartbeat. Sleep didn't come that night. The next afternoon, Jules texted me out of nowhere. Need you on stage 12 tonight? Small reshoot, 8 p.m., don't be late. No other details. I spent the whole day jumpy, distracted. Luis asked if I was okay. I blamed it on too much coffee. But I knew. Somehow I knew this wasn't about a reshoot. At 7:45, I walked across the lot to stage 12. Most of the crew had cleared out for the day. The stage door was unlocked, but the lights were off except for a few scattered work lamps. I pushed inside. The soundstage was massive, empty. Our footsteps would have echoed if there'd been anyone else to make them. But there wasn't. Just Naya. She stood in the middle of the space under a single work light. No makeup. Hair pulled back, hoodie and jeans and sneakers. She looked like a college student, not a movie star. Hi, she said softly. Hi. We stood 20 feet apart, neither of us moving. Jules helped me set this up, she said. We're not supposed to be here, but also, no one's checking. Why? I asked. Why now? She looked down, kicked at a piece of tape on the floor. Because I couldn't stop thinking about you, and I hated myself for it, and I hated Marcus for making me choose, and I hated this whole system that turned something real into something I had to hide. It wasn't real, I said. It was a job. Don't do that, her voice cracked. Don't pretend it was just a job for you. I couldn't, so I didn't. I texted you, I said. 3 times. You never answered. I signed something. She took a step closer. After that night in the hallway, after Marcus saw us, the studio made me sign an agreement. No more mystery men, no more tabloid fuel. In exchange, I got to keep the franchise roles, the brand deals, everything. So you chose the career. I chose survival. Her eyes were wet now. Do you know what happens to actresses my age when the narrative turns? We disappear. We become punchlines. I have 12 years left if I'm lucky. Maybe less. I understood. Hated it. But understood. I'm not asking you to leave him, I said. I'm not that stupid. I know. But I need to know if any of it was real, or if I was just convenient. She crossed the distance then, stopped a foot away, close enough that I could smell her perfume again. Vanilla and amber, the scent I'd been chasing in my sleep. "You made me feel seen," she said. "Not Nia Harrington, the actress, not Marcus's wife, not the face of a franchise, just me, the girl from a small house who used to practice Oscar speeches into a hairbrush." My hands shook. "I don't know what we are," she continued. "I don't know what we can be. But I know I drive past coffee shops and think about you. I know I see extras on set and wish they were you. I know my marriage is a contract and my career is a cage, and the only time I felt free in 5 years was sitting in a trailer eating takeout with a PA who never once asked me for anything." I reached up. Slowly. Gave her time to stop me. She didn't. I straightened her collar, just like she'd done to me once. My hands were shaking so hard I almost couldn't do it. She reached up, caught my wrists, held them. "We can't," she whispered. "I know. If anyone finds out, I know." She stepped closer, until her forehead rested against my chest, light as a bird, heavy as the world. I didn't move, didn't wrap my arms around her, just stood there, breathing, feeling the warmth of her, the weight, the ache of almost. We stayed like that for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Then she pulled back, wiped her eyes. "There's a porch light," she said. "At my house, the one on the side facing the hills. If it's on after midnight, it means I'm awake, thinking about you, that's all. No promises, no plans, just a signal." "A signal," I repeated. "So you know you're not crazy, so I know you're still out there." I nodded. She kissed my cheek. Once. Barely. Then she turned and walked toward the side exit where Reggie was probably waiting. I stood under the work light, alone, listening to the door close behind her. The next 2 months were strange. I kept working, bounced between projects, saved money, called my mom every Sunday. And some nights, when I couldn't sleep, I drove. Always the same route. Up through the hills, past the houses with their gates and their gardens, until I could see her house in the distance. Sometimes the porch light was on. Most times it wasn't. The first time I saw it lit, I sat in my car for an hour, just looking, wondering if she was standing at a window somewhere, wondering if she could see my headlights. I didn't drive closer, didn't text, just sat there, then went home. We texted occasionally. Neutral stuff, industry gossip, funny memes, nothing that would look suspicious if anyone ever saw. But underneath every message was the real conversation. "I miss you. I'm thinking about you. I don't know how to do this, but I can't stop." One night, the porch light was off. I told myself that was good, that she was sleeping, that she was moving on. But I drove home feeling hollow anyway. Another night, it was on, burning bright, and I almost turned onto her street, almost parked, almost knocked on her door. But I didn't, because we'd agreed. A signal, not an invitation, just proof that we were still connected by an invisible thread neither of us knew how to cut. My mom called to say she might visit soon. I panicked about money, about explaining my life, about the possibility of her seeing something on TV that I couldn't explain. But she never booked the flight. And I was relieved. And guilty about being relieved. Luis got promoted to a better project. We had drinks to celebrate. He asked if I was seeing anyone. "Nah," I said. "You should, man. You've been walking around like a ghost." He wasn't wrong. I was haunting my own life, waiting for a porch light, waiting for a text that might never come, waiting for permission to want something I couldn't have. 3 months after the soundstage, I was driving home from a late shoot. Midnight. Maybe later. I wasn't planning to drive through the hills, but I did. Told myself I was taking the scenic route, told myself I just needed to clear my head. But I knew where I was going. I always knew. I took the turn onto the Overlook Road, the one with the view of her neighborhood. My headlights swept across the hillside. And there it was, the porch light, on, steady, like a lighthouse in the dark. I pulled over, killed the engine, sat there with my hands on the wheel. My phone was in the cup holder. No new messages, no instructions, no explanations. Just the light, just the understanding we'd created on an empty soundstage 3 months ago. I thought about everything. The NDA, Marcus's power, my mom's warnings, the way Naya's forehead had felt against my chest, the way her voice cracked when she said she couldn't stop thinking about me. I thought about all the ways this could go wrong, and all the ways it already had. I started the engine, drove slowly down the curve of the road. The porch light grew brighter, clearer. I could turn left onto her street, or I could keep going straight toward the freeway. Left meant something I couldn't take back. Straight meant safety, loneliness, the life I'd been living for months. My phone buzzed. I glanced down. Just one word. Hi. I looked back up at the road, at the light, at the choice. Some roles end when the camera's cut. Some don't. Some follow you home, live in your chest, turn into routines that exist in the space between what you want and what you're allowed to have. I drove closer, slow, like I was approaching something sacred or dangerous or both. I tell myself I'm just driving home, but every time I see that one porch light burning over the hills, I remember the night an actress asked me to pretend, and how dangerous it felt when I stopped. I still don't know which way I'm going to turn. Maybe that's the point. Maybe some doors stay cracked forever, and maybe that's enough. Some roles end when the camera's cut. Others follow you home.